just going to go ahead and play a little game. All right, we're just going to go ahead and play a little game. But before we play that game, I want us to go ahead and introduce ourselves. Let's get to know each other a little bit. Then we start looking at, our case studies and the reasons why we are here today, right? Okay, so I'm going to get started. My name is Mary Anene, and I live in Nigeria. All right. So just like that, I also want each and every one of us to go into the chat, introduce yourself, I want to get to know you, where you're joining from, all right, so that we can get to know each other a bit better, okay? So please go ahead. I'm looking out in the chat box right now, okay? All right, I'm still waiting for those responses. Let's go on, let's go on. Just go to your chat box, click on chat and then type. All right, so I can see Priscilla from Zimbabwe. Fantastic. Okay, so Priscilla from Zimbabwe, it's good to have you here on the call. Josephine from London, hello. Hello, good to have you here. Okay, and yes, I can see Desire from US, Francisca from UK. Fantastic. I'm still expecting more people. So please go ahead, use that chat box, drop your name, your location, Dawn from Ontario, Canada. Fantastic, fantastic. It's good to have every one of us on this call, and I'm so excited to be amongst this amazing individual. Now, another thing we are going to do very quickly, all right? I know more people are joining the call, so I also want them to, interact and engage. Another thing we are going to do before we kickstart is to find out if we are joining this call for the very first time or not, all right? So if you are joining for the very first time, I want you to go ahead and type a 1 in the chat. No, type a 0 in the chat. That means you've never joined any of our sessions before. All right, go ahead and type a 0. But if you are joining, you've gone to a couple of sessions, go ahead and type a 1. All right. Okay, so Francisca is joining for the very first time. Nice to have you here. Dawn is not joining for the very first time. It's also nice to have you back here on the call. All right, nice to have you here. I'm still expecting more. So for those of us on the call, please go ahead, let me know, how long you've known Tenalytics or how much you know about Tenalytics by indicating that particular info in the chat box. All right. Okay, so please go on, go on, go on, go on. All right, all right. So we're going to go ahead from here. All right. So I want us to get excited and ready for this session. All right. So before we go on, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to play a little game and then we dive into our work for today. All right. So I have a riddle. Okay. How many of us like riddles on this call? If you like riddles, just, give me a thumbs up. If you like riddles, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, all right? So I'm just going to go ahead anyway and ask us just one riddle, all right? Just one riddle here, okay? So the riddle is, I track your hours, okay? I measure your pay, all right? This is for people that, I don't know. Let me just leave it at that. Let me finish the riddle first of all. I track your hours, I measure your pay, I help HR and finance every day. Without me, things go astray. Who am I? Okay? Without me, things go astray. I'm going to come again. Okay? I track your hours, I measure your pay. Okay? I help HR and finance every day. Without me, things go astray. Who am I? All right, who am I? If you have an idea, you can just drop it in the chat box. Okay, so don't say numbers. No, no, no. You're close, but not quite. Josephine says financial analyst. It is a bit far from it, but on the line of yeah, on this on topic anyway. All right. So I think this is going to be data, HR. I think this is going to be a tricky one for us. All right. So I'm just going to give it to us so we can get started. All right. So this is a payroll system. All right. I track your hours, I measure your pay, and I help HR and finance every day. HR uses that to track their payroll. Finance also uses it to track expenses, and without me, things go astray. So it helps, HR and finance stay in line. All right. So that's exactly what the riddle is. And let's dive in for, our work for today. All right. So give me a moment to bring up my screen and let's get talking. All right, so welcome once again to another amazing session with Tenalytics. Today we are going to be looking at, okay, today we are going to be looking at our slide here, our topic here around evaluating the ROI of employee training programs as HR analyst and financial analyst for a service-based company. All right. So I believe every one of us on this call today are basically interested either in HR analytics or financial analytics, right? Or in fact, data of any sort, understanding how to analyze data, right? So today we are going to be leveraging the expertise of HR analysts and financial analysts in evaluating ROI of employee training programs. All right. So if you're excited and you're ready, before we dive in, I want you to just go ahead, give me a thumbs up, or just type in the chat, yeah, yeah. All right. Type in the chat, yeah, yeah, or I'm good to go. Okay. I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Fantastic. So I can see a thumbs up. I can see, more messages coming in as well. All right. So we are going to go on. Okay. So right here, we are going to look at, first of all, who we are joining today. For most of us that are joining the call for the very first time, I believe we also need to know the company called Tenalytics. So Tenalytics is a leading edtech company that focuses on providing specialized training in technology skills and delivering comprehensive data consultation services across diverse industries. With over 4 years of building talent for technology workforce, we have helped over 2,855 individuals transition from first jobs in tech across different parts of the world, which includes UK, US, Canada, Europe, Africa, and Asia. So we are committed to making the technological sector more accessible through premium experiential training in data analytics, business analysis, data engineering, data science, financial analytics, HR analytics, agile project management, Scrum Master, cybersecurity, and AI engineering. Our team of instructors are from leading companies across the globe, including Apple, Microsoft, McKinsey, Amazon, and so on and so forth. So they are bringing this wealth of experience, or we bring this wealth of experience to you to enable you engage in real world practicals and also gain experience through those valuable projects that you're going to be learning in your classrooms. All right. So that is Tenalytics for you. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell us, introduce myself properly and my co-moderator for tonight's session. And then we go ahead and get a little bit of taste of what we can actually benefit from Tenalytics. All right, so let's dive in. All right, so yeah. All right. So again, my name is Mary Anene. I am a data analytics professional and a HR analytics expert. Mary is a data analytics professional, and I'm passionate about turning complex data into actionable insights and helping diverse individuals unlock the opportunities that are available in the tech sector, especially in the areas of data analytics. With over half a decade of experience across multiple industries, I have combined my technical expertise with a strong commitment to empowering individuals through data literacy and career mentorship. All right. So some of the keynotes about Mary includes I have over half a decade of experience in the fields of data analytics, data science, and HR analytics with proficiency in tools such as Power BI, Excel, Tableau, Python, and SQL, to mention a few. And I'm also a senior data associate here at Analytics, and I've mentored over 1,000 individuals, helping them to transition from classrooms into tech roles. Now, I have worked across diverse industries, which includes government bodies such as the House of Representatives, NGOs, importation and marketing, and EdTech. Now, I advocate for women in tech, data literacy, and data-driven innovation in diverse industries. All right, so that's that for me. I'm also going to go ahead and introduce my co-moderator tonight. So meet Priscilla. So Priscilla is a passionate educator, data expert, and career strategist with close to half a decade of experience in the world of blockchain technology and data analytics. As a growth catalyst at Analytics, she has been instrumental in helping individuals navigate the complex tech landscape, guiding them in choosing the right career path, onboarding them into data-driven paths, and providing the support they need to land their first job. Her experience or expertise spans across freelance data analyst, crypto educator, technical support personnel, and tech career coach. With a strong commitment to career transformation, Priscilla has successfully onboarded and mentored over 500 individuals, helping them transition seamlessly into tech and securing meaningful job opportunities. All right. So these slides are also going to be available to us at the end of this session. So if you want to connect with Priscilla, you can also go ahead. Her LinkedIn profile is right there and you can connect. All right. So let's dive in. What are we here for today, right? Why are we here? And what are we hoping to achieve? All right. So the first thing we are going to achieve here is to evaluate our case study. All right. So we have a case study to stimulate a business scenario where we are going to be helping them evaluate the ROI of their employee training program across using technical knowledge of a HR analyst and a financial analyst for a service-based company. Now, after we are done achieving this, we are going to go ahead and look at how we can also get started as financial analyst or HR analyst in this specific field. All right. So after we look at what we can do with our data, we'll see exactly how we can also get started and become these individuals who handle data in such a fantastic manner. All right. And once we are done with that, we'll go ahead with our success story. We'll look at how other individuals have achieved this similar success that you have seen in our presentation tonight. All right. So if they can do it, you also can achieve it. All right. So let's dive into our case study. Okay. So why does evaluating employee ROI matter, especially in the space of training, right? So a lot of organizations have spent millions on employee training yearly, but most of them struggle to measure if their investment truly pays off, right? So now, as HR analysts and financial analysts, we can help them calculate their return on investment, all right? And help them become much more better in making strategic decisions in their businesses or spending money where it is actually impactful. All right. So let me break this down as to the role of a financial analyst in this particular scenario, as well as the HR analyst. Okay. So for the financial analyst core responsibilities in this kind of task, that is evaluating training expenses for an organization, right? Links to or applies to linking training costs to measurable returns, right? How much money are we spending and how does it impact, revenue generation or the business productivity? We also have identifying waste spend versus high impact program, right? So which programs are we spending money on? Or which programs are giving us higher returns on investment? Which programs are we wasting money? Which programs are we, getting better, returns on our investments based on what the data is saying? We also have a key role here that we are going to play, that is influence budgeting and cost optimization decisions. Now, all this can be possible for a financial analyst only when they decide, okay, only when they decide to utilize their data analytics skills, apply that to finance data, okay, to be able to make these decisions. How would a financial analyst know the particular courses or programs within an organization where they are making low returns on investment or high return on investment without actually analyzing data? All right, so these are some of the core responsibilities in our task today. All right, making sure that we can use data to identify all the pain points or all the success points that the business is currently encountering. All right. Now, for the HR analyst, the HR analyst core responsibilities include the ability to show leadership training, the training impact beyond attendance, right? So it's one thing for HR professionals to be able to track who attended a particular training. It's another thing for a HR analyst now to be able to say, okay, we spent this amount of money and this is the impact it has on our employees' productivity or improvement it has on the quality of work that these employees have to give to the organization. All right. Now, we also have a key responsibility here, which is to connect employee growth to retention and engagement. If we have the right kind of data, we analyze it, we can see the impact it has on both departments, job roles, and even individuals, all right? And this can also improve in the aspects of growth and development, which most employees in today's workforce need and look for, all right? Now, we also have to gain a seat at the table in strategic workforce planning. Usually, HR is an administrative role, right? It is an administrative role that tells us, oh, you have to run the business. Whenever we need a report, you give us the report, or if we need to hire an individual, you go through the hiring process, right? There's no strategic decision making. Now, with HR applied, with analytics applied to HR, you can now effectively analyze data, understand the percentages of performance attributed by different training programs and the impact it has on different departments as well. And then you can make informed decision as to the kind of courses or training programs that would be impactful or improve productivity for diverse roles, all right? More business or, CEOs or C-level executives are now willing to listen to HR because they have data-backed evidence to prove why this particular pathway it's very important for the organization or not. All right. The same applies to the financial analyst. using data to understand how to improve budget, how to save cost, and how to, get the best returns on revenue. Okay, so let's look at these, before we fully dive in. All right. So at the end of the day, all right, what goals are we going to be able to achieve when we go through this entire project? All right. The first thing is we are going to learn how to analyze training costs and performance data. Okay. The next thing is we're also going to learn how to translate HR metrics into financial impact. Okay. Now, we're not just looking at training data, who attended and who did not attend, right? We're going to learn how to transform all of this information into financial impact for the business. Another thing we're going to do is we'll be building a clear ROI dashboard to guide decision making. All right. So in all of this, we'll learn how to analyze training cost and performance data. We'll also learn how to translate our usual HR data into financial impact for a business. And we'll look at how to build a clear ROI dashboard to guide decision making. So trust me, we are going to be building a full dashboard here, analyzing how to influence business decision using just HR data to understand which courses are impacting employees' productivity, or are we spending excessively on these trainings, and how can we cut costs where applicable. Okay, so let's look at our case study fully. All right, so in every data analytics process, you first of all have to actually understand how or what a business represents, what they are for, all right, what they do, before you can actually help them solve a problem. All right. So yes, we're going to be working with Seedvest today. All right. So each and every one of us on this call, we are going to be applying these steps and approach in solving this specific problem for the business. All right. So I want us to pay close attention. All right. So Seedvest is a growing fintech startup helping young professionals save and invest wisely. Okay. It has been scaling very fast, and over the past 2 years, management invested heavily in employee training to boost productivity and customer satisfaction. All right. So, however, they've noticed rising training costs, but no clear visibility into whether these programs truly improve performance or revenues. To address this, management has formed a task team of HR and financial analysts. So each and every one of us on this call are going to be playing a role in helping Seedvest understand exactly why, okay, they are not getting the return on investment that they projected to get by investing so much on employee growth, okay, on employee growth. All right. So for us to address this, management has formed a team of HR and financial analysts to evaluate the ROI of all training programs and recommend actionable insights. All right. So what we are going to do is very simple. We have our key business questions here that we're going to look out for. The first one is, which department spends the most on training? So as the business question is, these are ways for us to actually break down, our data set to help us arrive at our final solutions. All right. So the first question is, which department spends the most on training? And then, are there training programs improving employee productivity and quality? Also, what are the trends in training spend and ROI over time? And finally, we have, what is the ROI of training programs across the organization. All right. So these key business questions are what we are going to be standing on to actually solve this business problem, to help us answer the impact of training costs in the organization, if we are spending money excessively or we are spending money impactfully. All right. So what is the role of the HR analyst and the financial analyst today? The role of the HR analyst is to help the organization in this particular task track employee performance, retention, and engagement impacts, while for the financial analyst, we are looking at linking training costs to measurable revenue gains and savings. Okay, so before we dive in, let's look at exactly what we want to actually achieve at the end of the day. Okay, so we are going to do this. All right. So what we have here is our raw data set, right? We're going to be converting our data set from, the usual rows and columns into this specific dashboard that we have here, a more clear visual to help us interpret what is going on in this particular data set. All right, to help us interpret what is going on in this data set. All right. So at the end of the day, or at the end of this particular case study, we should have a full functioning dashboard, such as the one we have right now on our screen, showing us how much money was spent on training, the revenue impact of training, the return on investment, number of employees, and every other breakdown that we need to be able to communicate to our stakeholders, explaining to them exactly how the money has been spent and what is the best approach moving forward to apply to training if need be. All right. So that is exactly what we want to achieve. All right. So before we dive into our visualization tools and start putting all of this together, I want us to go ahead and download these data sets that we have here. Don't worry, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat box so that each and every one of us can get there as soon as possible. All right, so give me a moment. Just paste this here. Okay. All right, so you see the link right there. I'm just going to tag it again. Seed vest data sets. Okay, seed vest data sets. All right, so I'm just going to paste it over here. All right, so please, everyone, go ahead, click on that link. That's if you want to follow along. All right, just go ahead and click on that link, and you should also be able to access the data sets. Now, we are going to be using a tool called Power BI. All right, Power BI to carry out this particular task. Now, Power BI is a business intelligence tool that allows us to summarize and analyze our data to make informed decision. All right, so I can see, a drop here saying that access is restricted. So just go ahead and try again. All right, go ahead and try again. Fantastic. So I can see some individuals are already getting onto the sheet. So please go ahead and click that link so that you can download the data. Now, for those of us that might be unable, okay, that might be unable to access or understand how to download it, don't worry, I'm going to show us exactly how to do that. All right, so just give me a moment. Let me go ahead and bring up this screen. Okay. All right, so right here we have our data set. That's the data set that we're going to be using today. All right, so if you want to download it, click on the link I sent to you in the chat box. All right, so you also see Blessed. Blessed has also sent that link again, Seedverse data set. Now, once you get into this platform here, that's your Google Sheets. Okay, I want you to head over to where you have your file. All right, so click on the drop down there where you have your file. All right, so you can see that over here. Just follow my cursor. Okay, follow my cursor. All right, so I want you to click on that file. Okay, that file name there. Scroll down to where you have downloads. Okay, and click on download as Microsoft Excel. Okay, click on download as Microsoft Excel. So I'll click on that right here. Okay, and I should have that directly in my folder. That's my file explorer over here. It should be downloaded to your own file explorer as well. So go ahead and take that step. All right. Now I want to make sure that we are all together before I go ahead with Power BI. All right. So for those of us that also want to start engaging with Power BI at the moment, I have an installation video here. Unfortunately, we can't dive into that specific video at the moment. All right, but we can do that at the end of this session. So I want us to pay close attention to all the processes that we are going to be making today or taking today. All right, so that we don't miss out on anything. And once we finally download our Power BI, we can easily just go ahead and replicate everything that we just learned today. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so if you are good to go, let me see you type in the chat. Yeah. All right, you are good to go. Let me see you type in the chat. Yeah. All right, I'm not seeing yeah yet, so I think we're still trying to download. All right, so Jolly says yeah. All right, I can see Tolu, I can see Chinemere, right? I can see Desi, Dawn, Violet. Fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into our Power BI. Okay. All right, so I know we can all see my screen here. Okay, so before we get started, I want to ask a question. How many of us know what Power BI is used for? If you know what Power BI is used for, just go ahead and type a 1. If you do not know what Power BI is used for, just go ahead and, drop a thumbs down right now. All right, just go ahead, just give me a thumbs down or just type a no, a big no. All right, so I can see Violet says no, Jolly says 1, that means you know something about Power BI. Atinuke says no, okay. I can see a lot of ones and a couple of no's as well, all right. So I'm just going to give us a brief, overview of what Power BI is, all right. So Power BI is a business intelligence tool that we use to process a lot of data, all right. It helps us to summarize our data and transforms it into that visual image that we saw previously. All right. It basically helps us to transform our data into informed decisions that we can use to impact businesses or our organization or even our personal lives as well in some ways. As long as you have data, you can analyze it on Power BI. All right. So today we are also going to be working through processes and steps that we can use to make use of this platform, all right, analyze our data and make informed decision. All right. So let's dive in. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do after I open up this particular platform is to go ahead and open a blank report page. All right. I just want us to, look at what the reports page looks like. All right. So this is our Power BI interface. All right. Basically, what we have here is our report canvas. This is exactly where we're going to be dropping all our reports, dragging the charts and adding the data sets that we want to view. Okay. Now, The next thing we want to do is actually to bring in our data sets, okay? To bring in our data sets into Power BI, all right? So just take this process as a process where you are going to the market, right? You want to prepare a pot of soup, right? Right now, we want to prepare a report. So I'm just using an analogy to explain that, right? You want to prepare a pot of soup and you don't have the ingredients at home, right? So you have to go out to get those ingredients, right? So that's exactly what it means here. We are going to go ahead, bring in our data that we're going to use to prepare our report, all right? So let's get started. I'm going to head over here to the Home tab session where I have the icon that is labeled Get Data. Okay, I'll go ahead and click on that drop down and I will select the file type that I have my data stored as. Okay, I'll select the file type I have my data stored as. All right, so I'm going to use the Excel workbook, okay, to do that. So I'll go ahead and click on the Excel. Okay, so right here, I have my Seedvest employee training data. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on that as well. Okay, Seedvest employee training data and open. Okay, now once I click on that, I should get a pop-up here that allows me to preview my data before we start our preparation. All right. So right here we have our navigator button, our navigator pop-up. Our navigator pop-up basically allows us to see the data set that we are bringing in, right? So when you go to the market, you pick up, your what's it called? You pick up your ingredients, all right, and you get back home. The first thing you are going to do is, open up the nylons or the cartons that you pick up from the market to see the ingredients that are inside and place them in the right places, right? That is exactly the process that we are in right now. So we are going to pick through the data, all right, just to make sure that we have the right information. So right here we have, yes, we do have the right information, seed-based data. We have information about employee training, training start date, training end dates, you know, training costs, and so on and so forth, right? Now, the next thing we are going to do in our preparation process is to start cleaning up these ingredients, which means that we are going to go ahead and transform our data effectively. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on transform data. Okay, transform data. All right, so when I click on transform data, it takes me to, a part of Power BI that is dedicated for data transformation and data cleaning. All right, so the reason why we have this is just to make sure that our data does not contain empty cells, null values, or any other thing that we do not want in our final report. All right, and then we can also, transform our data or transform it into a state that will allow us to make the best out of it, right? Think of it as your preparation process in the cooking process, right? Where you are now cleaning out, those ingredients that you bought from the market. Maybe you bought yam. This is the step where you are cutting it, peeling it and dicing it, right? So that is exactly what we are doing here. Once we get to this stage, we want to make sure that everything is in the right state. Just like you can't put a whole, pepper inside of your food and serve it to eat. Okay, that's exactly the same thing we are doing here, making sure that we don't have anything that looks abnormal going into our pot of soup. Okay, all right, so right here, we're going to go ahead and look at our data. The first thing I want to do is just to make sure that the data type, okay, all right, the data type, that's what we have here at the bottom, the top left corner of each column tallies with what we have inside of each column, okay? So we are looking at the ABC here. All right, ABC represents text. But right here inside of this column, we have alphanumeric data. That is alphabets and numbers in the same place, right? So these alphanumeric data are excusable and can be left as text values. The same applies to, employee, employee, we have we have text almost everywhere, okay? And yes, we also have training start date, training end date. Now, on your own end, if you have training start date in a different data type that is not this calendar icon right here, I want you to go ahead, you click on that calendar, this top left corner of your column, okay? Go ahead and select dates, okay? Click OK or agree to any other pop-up you have there, and you should be good to go, all right? Now, the same applies. We just go through every of our columns to make sure that everything is good. Another thing we use to monitor our data to make sure we don't have empty cells in the wrong places is to look at our data quality here, right? So it helps us to go through faster, especially when we have thousands and thousands of rows or even millions of rows in some cases, right? So we have validity here, 100% valid information all across our data set, all right? 100% valid all across our data, okay? So everything looks fine, everything looks good. It looks like we gave the vegetable people in the market the vegetable to dice for us. So, I mean, there's less preparation right here, right? So we're going to go ahead and start the process of creating our report, all right? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to load my data into Power BI so that the process can start, right? This is us now, putting that port. All right, so someone is asking for our data link again. So please, if you don't mind dropping the data set link for the seed-verse data. All right, so yes, we're going to go ahead and load this particular information into Power BI. All right, so we are getting to that place where we are putting the pot on the fire or boiling some water. All right, so that's exactly where we are getting to now. So I'm going to go ahead and close and apply just by clicking on this icon here. Okay, close and apply. Okay, so our seed-verse data is basically getting loaded right now. All right, and we have our data sets fully loaded. So our data set basically comes into this data panel here. And instead of us having it in a tabular format, just like we just saw right now, okay, in this particular panel, it is going to be in a list format, which means we're just going to be having access or visible access to the column headers. All right, so all the column headers that we have in our data set, right here, we'll just be seeing their titles. That's all. All right, that's all the information that we'll have access to for the main time. Okay, so now that we've successfully imported our data, it's time for us to get into the data analytics process. All right, so we'll start analyzing our data bit by bit. That is transforming it into much more informed decision. That's blending everything together much better, like finding the total amount of money spent on salaries and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're going to get started by creating a special table, okay, to store some of our measures. All right, like I said, we're going to start creating new calculations for different aspects. How many employees do we have in our organization in Seedvest? Okay, how many percentage did we measure post-training and pre-training and so on and so forth. All right. So I'll go ahead and click on this icon here, enter data, so I can create a new table. This table, I'll call it key measures because I'm storing some important measurements inside of this particular table. Okay, inside of this particular table. All right, so I'll go ahead and type in key measures. All right, key measures. Okay, and once I'm done typing in that name, I'll go ahead and load this data set. All right, so right here, this is fully created, and we can start creating our measures. So the first thing we are going to do here is very simple. I want to find out the total number of employees that we have in this organization. All right, the total number of employees that we have in this organization. Now, before I go ahead and start calculating total number of employees, I want to test our knowledge of this score, right? So can anyone tell me, which specific column can we actually use to count the number of employees that we have inside of this data set? Okay, we want to count how many of them participated in training, which will actually give us the total amount of employees that we have, in the organization as well. All right, so I can see a response from Atinuke. Atinuke says employee ID. Do we have any disputers that have something else? Okay, Desi also says employee ID. Fantastic. Do we have any disputers in the house? All right, so nobody's saying anything different from what Atinike and Desi has mentioned, right? All right, so we're going to dive in and make use of the employee ID because they are absolutely correct. That is exactly what we are going to use to find out how many employees that we have in this particular organization, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start with that measure. So I'll just click on new measures over here. Okay, click on key measures. It opens up this tab called table tools, and then we'll go to new measures. All right, so once I click on new measures, it opens up a tab for me here that I can use to write my calculations. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, that I can use to write my calculation. So I can see a comment just popped in now from Atinuke saying it's a unique identifier. Fantastic. So it's a unique identifier, meaning that no two employees can have the same ID. So it is the best bet to use when counting these employees. It's just like our matric numbers in university. When you see your matric number on a wall or on a notice board, it's you. Whether your name is there or not, it's always going to be you, right? Now, the same applies for IDs in different scenarios, right? The same applies for the employee ID here as well. All employees have significant IDs that are specific to them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and name this measure. I'm just going to call it employees. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead with our calculation. Now, what I'm going to do here is to apply something called distinct count. Distinct count because I want to make sure that I count all employees, okay, for the count part, but I want to make sure that I count all employees distinctively, okay? Remember, we want to get the actual number of employees in each of these departments, regardless of the amount of trainings that they've taken, right? So when we look at a particular topic and we have a specific department, we want to see the actual number of staffs that carried that training or took that training, okay? So I'm going to go ahead here and, start with our distinct count, and then we look at the employee ID, okay? Just type in the name there, type in employee ID, and then you get this particular outlook here. All right, so just like that, we calculated the total number of employees that we have in our data set. All right, so I'll go ahead and click enter. Okay, and we have our employees measure or measurement right here. Okay, so now that we have our employee measurements or the total number of employees that we have, we can just go ahead and look at our very first question. All right, give me a moment. Let's bring up the questions. Okay, all right, so you should be seeing my screen right about now. All right. So we want to just, take out time to look through these questions that we have here. The first question that we have here says, which department spends the most on training? All right. Which department spends the most on training? Now, if we're going to evaluate this effectively or execute the analysis effectively, it's basically asking us simple questions. We want to look at different departments here, and we want to also see how much money we are spending on all of these departments. Okay? How much money we are spending on all of these departments in the area of training, right? So diving back into our Power BI, okay, so that we can carry out, okay, this is our finished analysis, so we can carry out that particular step, all right? So what I'm going to do here is just to, first of all, I'm going to just go in here and pick out any chart, all right? So I'll go with this clustered column chart, okay? But before I start visualizing, okay, I want to make sure that I can reuse this training cost over and over again. And to do that, I'll have to store it in a measurement, right? So I want to calculate the total cost of training, okay? The total cost of training. So I'll just go in here, back to my key measures, go to new measures to create a new measurement, and I'll call this training costs. Okay, training costs, and we have the sum. We'll sum up the entire cost that we've spent on training so far. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to look for the column that has training cost applied to it. So I'll just scroll down. Fantastic. So right here we have a column that stored the information or the amount of money spent on training for the employees. So I'll go ahead and click on this, okay, and close brackets. All right, so just like that, we have our training cost. But before I go ahead and round off on that, I also noted that this particular column stores, currency value with the dollar sign that we have here right in front of the name of the column. We know that this is a currency value. So what we want to do is very simple. We want to go ahead and make sure that we also effect the value, okay, of the column in the data type. So instead of us just leaving it as a regular number, we want to make sure that anytime our stakeholders see this number, they know that it's actually translating to actual figures, not just numbers, maybe number of employees or number of goods or number of phone calls, right? We want them to know that, okay, this is actually cost, not just by the title, but by the figure. All right, so I'm just going to click on this dollar sign here, and just like that, our data type format changes from general to currency. Now we can go ahead and apply this information into our chart. So I'll go in here, like the question says, it says how, okay, which department spends the most on training, right? So which particular department is spending more money on training? The first one I'm going to look into is to get our department information in here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead All right, and bring that in just by clicking on that. All right, so our department is in already. The next thing I want to do is bring in the training costs. Okay, so just like that, we have answered a question, but we cannot fully answer a question without being able to interpret the chart. Okay, so I'm going to quickly let's just go ahead and turn on our data label here. All right, so I'm just going to quickly ask us a question about what we can see on our screen right now. Okay, so which particular department spent the most on training? Can anyone tell me, just based on this, which particular department spent the most on training? Just by looking at this solution we have here. So this says compliance. Fantastic. Okay, compliance, compliance, compliance. Fantastic. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. All right, so I'm just going to put this on focus mode so that those of us that can't see it well can also see it as well. All right, so for this organization, the department that we invested the most money on in terms of training was compliance, and we spent almost close to 1 million. That is 828,550K, right? So all of this is what was spent for compliance. The same applies to other departments as well, but there's a significant gap between compliance and marketing down to sales, operations, customer support, and then IT, where we spent the least amount of money. All right. So we've been able to identify one business problem. That is knowing exactly which department we spent the most money. All right. Now that we have this, let's answer the next question and see what we get out of it in terms of what we can respond to our management for that business solution. Okay, so our next question here is, are training programs improving employee productivity and quality? Are training programs improving employee productivity and quality? All right. So this particular question is trying to find out the impact of training programs in terms of our employees. We are doing this because of our employees, right? Okay. We are doing this because of our employees. So Benedicta says she needs the documents. Don't worry, my colleagues are sharing a specific link in the chat box right now. Make sure to fill it out, all right? Once you fill it, you are going to get not just the PDF, but the entire recording for this session, all right? So both the PDF, everything we are using here, you are going to have access to it. Just make sure you fill that form. Fantastic. All right. So for the rest of us that haven't done that, please go ahead and do that. Okay. So again, we have our training programs improving employee productivity and quality, right? So what we are going to do here is very simple. We are going to understand exactly what we want to apply in our charts. The first thing is training programs. Okay. All the training programs that have been carried out, either in Excel, Power BI, or any of those tools, or whatever training programs that this organization has, we want to see them. And then we want to see how these training programs impacted the employees' performance or the quality of work. What improvements did this training program show in terms of our employees, productivity? So that's exactly what we want to see. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead, just let's duplicate this chart for a start. Okay. I just want to duplicate this. I'll remove departments and I'll also remove total cost. Now for this particular one, I want to see, let me bring this closer here so we can see everything. All right. I want to see the training programs, which is right here, training programs. And then we were asked for the quality, okay, and the productivity that this training program influence, right? So I'll go ahead and click on. Okay, so if you look right here, we have multiple things that impact, that signifies the productivity or quality workflow. We have the pre-productivity, the post-productivity. The same applies for our quality score. Now, our quality score, the quality score measurements that we have here is basically assessing our quality of work, right? How are our employees doing in terms of accuracy of work, right? When you ask them to complete a particular task, how efficient are they doing that, right? How accurate are they? How quality is the work? You know, is it up to standard, right? That's the quality score. And then the productivity, as always, when you give them a task, how fast do they complete it, how efficient and all of that, right? That is what is being measured there. And all of this impacts directly to their performance, right? It speaks directly to their performance at the end of the day. So instead of us, clicking on all of this particular, visual right here, I can go ahead and click on it so we see how it looks like. All right. Very, very noisy. Okay. Although we can still pick out information from it, but this is not effective enough. Now, the best thing I'm going to do here is actually to find a way to make the visual, all right, speak volume, even while we have less data. So the simple thing I'm going to do is to find the difference between pre-training productivity and post-training productivity. The same applies to the pre-training quality score and the post-training quality score. So I'm going to go back to my measurements, right, and start calculating what is the average difference of productivity before training and after training. That will give us a negative or a positive outcome, right? A negative or a positive outcome telling us if productivity increased or reduced after training. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that here. I'll just go ahead, key measures, and I'm just going to call this new measure productivity. Okay, improvement. All right, and we're going to look at, let's use the average X. Okay, the average X allows us to carry out multiple uh, calculations in one place instead of us calculating average of this separately and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to go ahead here and we get the average post productivity, post training productivity, and we'll be subtracting that from the average pre-productivity scores that we have in the data set. All right, so we have productivity improvement. I'll go ahead and hit enter. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do here is just to go ahead and click on new measures again and do the same thing for the quality score. All right, so quality improvements, we have all right. And the same thing, the same approach, I'll use the average X function, all right? So like I said, it allows us to carry out multiple averages. Instead of us having average bracket, we just, put it in an average X and it basically walks through everything that we have in our formula, all right? So post-training quality minus pre-training. Okay, go with seed verse. We'll call on the table name first and then pre-training. Okay, so that's it. All right, so I'll go ahead and hit enter. We have our productivity improvements percentage final scores, and we also have quality improvement as well. All right, so instead of me having all of this, I'll take this out, take this out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work with this. So we have this and then we have this. I want to go into my data label and change the data label or the data output that we have. All right, so our display unit here is in thousands, so I'll put it on auto. Fantastic. I also want to change my chart. Okay, so just like that, you can just click on any chart and it transforms basically. So if we use this, it works efficiently. All right, so just like that, instead of having those bunch of clusters, we've been able to summarize this much more efficiently. I'll put this on focus mode again so we can look through and then we can effectively answer the question, are training programs improving employee productivity and quality, right? So right here we have all the training programs outlined for us, and then based on the legend that we have here, we have the quality outlined in the light blue and the productivity difference outlined in the darker shade of blue. Okay, so if you look at this, which particular department would you say we actually have a higher productivity ratio? Productivity. Let's go with productivity first. Or which particular training program rather? Okay, let's go with productivity. Where do we have the highest productivity? AML. Fantastic, fantastic. So Desi is on fire tonight. Okay, I can see Oyewole as well. Jolly, fantastic. So Atinuke says, okay, KYC training. Fantastic. KYC training. That is exactly where we have the highest productivity improvement so far in the entire training program. All right. So after they took this training, we recorded a 6.3% increase in productivity, as well as a 4.3% increase in quality of work, which is absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Right? So we also still have other departments that still have high productivity, although it doesn't replicate itself across all departments, or rather across all training programs, right? Something like troubleshooting advanced, okay, we have the same, low outcome, 3%, 2% in quality, 3% in productivity. The same applies for advanced CRM usage, okay? So productivity did not really improve, so there's no actual impact. Now, this particular, uh, you know, solution speaks volume to the HR analysts in the house, right? It helps you to understand the decision making that you've taken care of in terms of the training programs that have been selected so far, right? Which one is actually doing well for us? Which one is helping us boost employee productivity? When employees are productive, their quality of work is excellent, we're expecting to also get what? Return on investment, right? Better return on investment, more money, more revenue being generated because we have amazing impact. Now, 6% is not so great, but right now we can attest to the fact that the KYC training is the most effective, followed by the regulatory compliance. I believe the compliance department is getting a lot of value from the training so far, but we cannot decide yet until we have our full report, right? So we are going to move on from this, okay, and go on to the next question. But before we go on to the next question, I would like to ask a question, right? We went from a different visual, very clustered with all the information that we need, by the way, to this particular visual, all right? If you had to decide between those two visuals, let me see if I can quickly replicate that right here, okay? Let me just bring this over here to the top, all right, so that we see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so if we had to replicate, okay, All right, so if we had to replicate between this visual, maybe I should just bring it to the side. Okay, visual A over here and visual B. Okay, which one would we go for? A or B? I want to see our response. Okay, A or B? B. Okay, so I can see Oyewole Tony says because B because it gets to the point faster, it gets to the point easier. All right. B because it shows us the impact of productivity before training and after training, not just us comparing figures between those two training periods or looking at numbers and saying, oh, this is higher than this is lower than this. We see the actual difference. And you're even going to see more of the impact when we start interacting with this dashboard. Places that received negative productivity, that is less productivity after training and so on and so forth. Right now, we are still looking at the overview, all right? But we are going to flog this data until it testifies, all right? So let's go ahead and continue with the process. I'll just take this out, okay? And then we look at another question, okay? Let's quickly look at another question right here. So this particular one says, what are the trends in training spend and ROI over time? What is the trend of training spend and ROI over time? So this one is asking us to evaluate, what our ROI looks like over a long period of time, right? What is it, are we getting value or we are not getting value, right? So this time around, we already have information on what our total training spend is by looking at our department information, our training data, everything is well spoken for right there. Now it's time for us to calculate our ROI, and this is where our financial experts come in, right? We want to understand our return on investment on each training program, right? But this time around, we want to see if over the years, as in this 2 years period, are we getting higher return on investment or lower returns on investment? What is the trend like, right? At what point in time did our trend on investment start improving? These are the curiosity or the questions that we want to be able to answer just by looking at this specific visual. All right. So I'm going to go ahead here. Okay. And then we're going to start by calculating our ROI. Okay. We're going to start by calculating our ROI and then we move on from there. Okay. So I'm going to this measurement here. All right. And what I want to do is very simple. First of all, to calculate ROI is basically to look at the revenue returns that we are getting from this business, all right, and how training, okay, impacts these revenue returns. So luckily we have revenue contributions before, okay, before the training and revenue contributions after the training. So all of these have been recorded for us to use in evaluating how well, okay, these particular training programs are helping the organization gain profit or generate revenue. Okay, so let's look. So I'll go here, create a new measure. All right. And the next thing I want to do is very simple. I'm going to go ahead and, type in the name. Okay. We're going to call this, first of all, let's calculate something called, revenue uplift. Okay. This is just us looking at the difference between the revenue of the organization before and the revenue of the organization after. All right. So we have revenue uplift. So did we get more money after investing on our employees training, or did we get less money? Okay, so I'll go ahead and look at this. Well, all I'm going to do here is just subtractions, right? So let me just go to a new line. First of all, I'll sum up the total revenue generated after the training. Okay, we expect that after the training, we should have more money, right? So we're going to subtract, just close brackets, and subtract this from the sum of revenue generated before the training, all right? This will allow us to note exactly how much money was made, okay, after the training period. Did we get more or did we get less? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on, okay, before training, close brackets, and hit enter. And just like every other currency column, I'll make sure that my data format is also in currency. So I'll click on this dollar sign here, and we are good to go. All right, so now that we have the difference between the amount of money that we started with and the amount of money that we are currently generating after we've invested in training, let's look at our return on investment based on the training costs as well as the revenue uplift. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that. We're going to calculate our ROI now. Okay, so I'll just call this ROI. In brackets, we have our percentage. Okay, just to indicate that that's exactly what we are doing anyway. All right, so right here, I'll just use our already calculated measures so we don't spend time. So we use the division function here, okay? And then we bring in our return on investment. First, revenue uplift is going to be divided by the training cost, okay? So we see how much money, okay, how much money is our training contributing to our revenue, okay? We don't want to spend money in vain. We want to make sure that we are actually getting something in return, right? So let's look at this, okay? All right, so we made a mistake there. So revenue uplift minus training cost divided by training cost. That is exactly what we want to do here. All right, so I'll put this in a new line. So it looks like this, and close brackets. All right, so this minus training cost divided by training costs, and we have our ROI. All right, so before we go on, like I said, this should be in percentage, and since we cannot just directly multiply by 100, we have to apply our percentage sign here. Although we can multiply, but we won't have our percentage sign. So we just go ahead and apply that by using this symbol here, okay? And we have our percentage sign, 2 decimal places, and we are good to go. All right, so we finally have our ROI. Don't worry, we're still going to bring in all our KPIs, but right now we need to look at our, trend of ROI. If it's increasing, reducing, or just stagnant. Let's see what it looks like. All right, so I'll use a line chart here because we are applying some date periods in our data sets. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is to bring in our dates. All right, I'm going to use the training end dates for this specific one, training end dates. All right, and I'll bring in my ROI measurement that we just finished right now. So I'll bring that in. Okay, so right here, I'll just go ahead and put this in focus mode. So right here, we can see our ROI, all right? So if we look at this, we might say, oh, we have a poor performance. Okay, we have a poor performance. Yes, we do have a poor performance in terms of return on investment. We have about 93 minus 93. But if it's going downwards, it means that it is actually, it's getting worse. actually, because we still have 90 something percent. So it's not going upwards at all. So we have minus 96.97 as of today, right? That is our return on investment. All right. So right here, we can tell that the training programs that we've been investing in are not helping us generate any form of revenue. All right. In fact, we are losing money. Okay. We are losing money. All right. So you can see that minus 93% is just going downwards, downwards, and downwards, just like that. All right. So that is our interpretation here. We can already see some trends telling us, oh, we've spent or invested this amount of money in different departments. That's the training cost by department. But right now we're looking at how we've spent this money, what we are supposed to be getting in returns. And we are seeing these numbers here, right? So we need to do something about this. These are some of the things that we can speak on in our strategy meetings, what we've been able to find in our data, and how we should spend money better or budget better. Okay, so now that we have these informations here, we can now go ahead and bring in all our KPIs. I'll just go ahead and do that here very quickly. Okay, so first things first, we want to look at the training costs sum right here. Okay, so right here we can see that we spent about 3 million and something thousand just on training. Okay, now let's look at how much was spent in terms of the revenue uplift. Okay, so I'll go ahead here. We have 100, okay, 100,000. Compared to this, we understand very much why our return on investment for training is this low. Now let's go ahead and still look at other figures here. We have okay, let's look at total number of employees, and finally our ROI, right? So bring in the ROI here. Okay, so our ROI right here. Okay, so because of time, I'm just, instead of us, doing all the other visual components, I'm just going to go to this finished work we have here and just make use of that instead. All right, so right here we have our finished dashboard. All right, a complete version of our dashboard, fully optimized and ready for presentation, right? And we also have all our filters here that will help us to go through these data sets. Now that we've been able to answer all our business questions, okay, we have, okay, I think we still have one more step to go because we didn't apply this to our data. We still have one more, all right? And the question is simple. What is the ROI of training programs across organizations, right? So still the same thing as our second question here, asking us about the cost of training across, our first question rather, asking us about the cost of training across different departments, or the spending of training across different departments. The business also wants to know the return on investment across different departments, okay, which requires us to just apply just a simple step here. We just go in here. I believe we can just apply this to a clustered column chart so we can apply our return on investment as well. So I'll just go in, bring in my ROI, drag it and drop it on the line axis, okay, which shows up on our chart as a pattern. So a much clearer view, like I mentioned, will be our chart right here. That's our finished analysis right here. So right here we have our total training cost and ROI by department, which basically shows us, the trend of return on investment. This allows us to actually note that all departments, okay, all departments in this organization do not yield any return or much returns on investments. Everything is in the negatives. For compliance, we have minus 96% in total. For marketing, which seems to have, a lesser amount of training costs, still has a low return on investment. So this is a constant view throughout our data sets, right? We have a good report or a good enough report in terms of productivity and quality improvement, but we don't have a good report in terms of return on investment, right? So this calls for some certain actions for us within our organization, right? And I want us to, come up with some suggestions as to what to do differently. How do we, you know, change the results that we are having, this low ROI or return on investment? What do we need to do to improve it? What are some suggestions that comes to mind when you look at this data set right now? Okay, we're spending this amount of money on training and we are still getting this kind of result. That means so far so good. Before training and after training, the revenue generated was just 100,000, 100,000, while expenses made on training is 3 million. Okay. All right. So I'm waiting for some recommendations. Okay. So I'm just going to share some with us, all right, so that we can get in the zone. All right. So one of the key things that we've noted here is the fact that our dashboard is telling us that we need to start looking into the training programs that we have right now. All right. Although some of them might be showing signs of effectiveness, but they are not impacting the organization in any way, right? We might be spending a lot of money on programs that do not actually help us improve revenues, or we might be spending money on very expensive programs when we can, bring our expenses into a good budget zone where we can do better with our training. All right, where we can do better with our training and still get even more productivity. I mean, 6% increase in productivity is not good enough. We can do much better. Return on investment looking this poorly can also be improved, okay? Can also be improved upon. Now, like I said, if you go through your data, you will also be able to see how interactive this dashboard is. Let's look at customer support department and see everything about their training. So we can see their return on investment figures here, the amount of money that was spent on training, and the contributions that was made to revenue from this department, which is just 10,000 with 13 employees to show for. Okay, you can see their performance in different training programs. What was the effect on their performance, right? Customer handling skills, we had, better quality of work going out, okay, 7% increase right there. And then advanced CRM usage, we had 2% increase in quality of work, 2% increase in productivity, whereas where we looked at data analytics with Excel, we had a poor performance, which means that the HR and the finance team has to look into the amount of money spent under this training and also how to change the course or scrap it out from the training and development packages. There are a lot of things that can be done with this data set. Like I said, don't worry, you'll be able to try this out on your own. Make sure to fill out the feedback form so that you can have access to all of these information. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, go back into our slides so that we can look at what we have next. All right. But before we go, if you have any questions on this, you can go ahead and share your thoughts very quickly so that we can, answer some questions before we continue with our session for tonight. All right. So again, like I said, we're just going to go ahead and continue with the rest of our session. All right. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is how to get started. All right. So we've seen how we can use data analytics to answer some key business questions. All right. And it's time for us to actually look into how we can get started as financial analysts, HR analysts, how we can get the skill sets, understand when to apply or how to answer diverse business questions. All right. So I'm going to be handing over to our next moderator, that is Priscilla. So hi, Priscilla, can carry on.
Yeah, hi Mary. Thank you so much for such an impactful session. I enjoyed it myself. Hi everybody, my name is Priscilla and I'll continue with the rest of the session. Just so that we do some housekeeping. If you literally enjoyed the practical session with Mary, please leave a yes in the chat. If you enjoyed every bit of details that she shared, okay, Benedicta is saying yes. Who else? Please leave a yes. Yeah, Mary, your session was quite impactful and we all enjoyed it. So right about now, I'd also want to ask you, we have HR analytics professionals or soon to be HR analytics professionals in the house. And I guess we also have financial or soon to be financial analytics professionals in the house. So if you're for HR analytics, just type HR analytics in the chat. If you're for financial analytics, type financial analytics in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Benedicta is for FA. FA is for financial analytics. So you can just put the short form HR or FA. Oh, Becky to FA. Esther is HR. Atinukia is HR. Jerry is FA. It looks like the FA guys are having it. Mary, you're in between FA, HR. Francisca is saying HR. Okay, so let's just get into the rest of the details for this session. In about 28 minutes, because we're going to leave here in 28 minutes, I want to show those of us, that are yet to transition into HR analytics or financial analytics, how you can transition into these career paths. And then why financial analytics or even why HR analytics? Are you going to get a job? Are these roles in demand? Because you don't just want to learn something, that wouldn't land you a job. All right. So I'll literally talk to you about, these programs and how you can transition into these programs. So I'm sharing my screen. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Can somebody see my screen? Please leave a yes in the chat if you can see my screen clearly. If you can see my screen clearly, all right, thank you, Atinuke. So we've gotten a feel of, the people we have here in the session, financial analyst and HR analyst. So literally, if you're looking to transition into being an HR professional, and not just any HR professional, a strategic HR professional or HR partner in a company, or you are looking to transition into financial analytics, helping a company, predict their financial performance, right? So what are the skills that you need to learn in 2025, right? So you're in school about rounding up your master's, or you are in another career path, but you think, oh, financial analytics or HR analytics is something I want to transition into. Right now, to transition into these career paths, there are certain skills that you need to have. And a lot of us sometimes we just go on, Google, go on ChatGPT and search, oh, the skills for a financial analyst. And we go just try to learn it without structure. So here at Analytics, what I'm here to do today is to show you the skills you need to learn and the structure you need to put in place to achieve your end goal. Remember that it is just not about learning. Okay, there are way too many people that have learned. They went on YouTube, Coursera, Udemy, but they are not able to get a job. Your story has to be different. If you're going to be transitioning into being a financial analyst or a HR analyst, you certainly, need to get a job from that. Now, I would start with the financial analytics. Okay, what are the things that you need to learn? What are the skills, that you need to acquire to literally transition into being a financial analytics professional here at Analytics? Now, one very interesting thing about our financial analytics program is it gives you access into 3 exciting career paths, right? Really, really exciting career paths. And that will be data analytics, investment banking, and corporate finance, right? Because literally, if you're a financial analyst, you are a data analyst that is focused on financial data. right? So you are a data analyst that is focused on financial data. Just keep that in mind. So what are the things that you need to learn? The first thing you need to learn is problem solving. How do you approach problems as a financial analyst? Now, the way a cybersecurity professional will approach problem is different from the way a financial or HR analyst will approach problem. So you coming to learn how to become a financial analyst or a transition or a HR analyst, pardon me, right? You literally need to develop that problem solving mindset. How can you solve problems literally? And that is the first thing that we teach you. We teach you how you can approach problem solving, as a financial analyst. So after we've been able to achieve that, we go on to Excel. Now, this is your data analytics bit. You learn how to use Excel to analyze financial data, right? And you also get to learn Power BI. Now, Power BI is a business intelligence tool, and it is something you get to learn. You have SQL as well. We just finished using Power BI, right? And it's a really, really interesting tool. With Power BI, you can handle large data sets. You can connect to multiple data sources. I really enjoy using Power BI. That's something you get to learn from the very scratch. So if you want to build a report just as Mary has done, to ascertain the impact of a decision, a training decision, and all of that using Power BI, you literally need to start from the beginning, from the basics, from the interface of Power BI. And that is something, you get here at Analytics. Then you have your SQL, structured query language. Imagine this data set that Mary worked with. It's in an HRIS, or it's somewhere in a database. You cannot just use Power BI to generate insight. There's a language for the database, and that is your SQL, structured query language. That is something you get to learn here at Analytics. Then you have accounting fundamentals to show you that this program is beginner friendly. You don't need to have some form of prior experience, before trying to join our financial analytics program or even the HR analytics program. We start from the very beginning, right? So you get to learn the various accounting principles, accounting fundamentals, right? To bring you to that point where you are ready to delve into being a financial analyst, right? Then you have financial analysis. So how can you analyze a financial statement, right? So if a company is looking to, purchase a software, to train their staff and all of that, as a financial analyst, you tell them the cost and the benefit of that software on the company's, financials, right? And all of this is using your financial statement, your financial analysis, basically. You also have financial modeling. I don't know if anybody here has been privy to building a financial model, but with a financial model, you're basically able to help a startup raise capital. Every single company, needs a financial model because they need to understand, they need to be able to predict their financial performance over the coming years. And that is something you get to do with financial modeling. Then we have valuation. How do you value a company? Right? And sensitivity and scenario analysis, as well as ChatGPT for analytics. So these are the things that you need to learn to become a financial analyst, right? Now, I would move on to HR analytics. I know that a couple of us here, are for HR analytics as well. What are the things that you need to learn? Right now, remember, just as the financial analyst is a data analyst that is focused on financial data, the HR analyst is a data analyst that is focused on people data. Right, so if you take a look at my screen from number 1 to 4, it is the same thing. This is your data analytics aspect, right? You get to learn problem solving. You have Power BI, you have Excel, you have SQL, right? So you learn this data analytics aspects before you delve into the proper HR analytics, right? And if you see my screen, you would see that the 5th thing you have to learn is HR analytics and performance evaluation. HR metrics and lifecycle, HR analysis and dashboarding, collaboration and report automation, building your case and creating action, as well as ChatGPT for analytics. So if you want to go into HR analytics, these are the things that you need to focus on. These are the skills that are required, right? And these are what you actually need to learn from the very scratch. Okay, so now that you are done learning, right? Or now that you have an idea of the skills that you should learn, if you're looking to get into HR analytics, or if you're looking to get into financial analytics, are these career paths, the two of them, financial analytics and HR analytics, are they really worthwhile? If you get into it, do you see yourself getting a job? With the emergence of AI and everything, AI buzz, AI is going to take your job and all of that. Some roles are going to fizzle out and all of that. Do you stand a risk getting into financial analytics or HR analytics? Let's take a look at that. Now, here at Analytics, for those of us, that have not heard of Analytics prior to this session, we train people, to get into tech. And guess what? We are only focused on 8 different career paths. Tech is broad, really, really broad. But Analytics decided that this 8 is what we're going to focus on, and we're going to help people transition into these career paths. Now, why 8 of them? Right? And amongst the 8, you have the financial analytics and the HR analytics. Now, bear in mind that the end goal for us is not just to have you come and learn. That is not the end goal at all. The end goal is to ensure that you are able to get a job after learning, and not just any kind of job, one that pays you well. So we needed to see financial analytics, HR analytics, what is the demand for these career paths? So we did our job board analysis. So with the job board analysis, we took a look at LinkedIn, we took a look at Indeed, Glassdoor, and all of that, to literally see, okay, the HR analytics and financial analytics roles, do recruiters fill up these roles? How often do they even fill up these roles? So now, after we did our job board analysis, we were satisfied with the output, right? Because from the job board analysis, we got to see that the HR analyst and the financial analyst are in demand. But that was just our analysis. We also needed to, get a report, a global report, right? And that is why we consulted the Future of Jobs report by the World Economic Forum. Now, the World Economic Forum is made up of tech leaders. You have your Elon, your Jeff Bezos, and the likes. And the chart, the course, it's just as the name implies, Future of Jobs, literally. Right? So where are the jobs added with the advent of AI and all of that, right? So we took a look at this report to look for the roles that, would continuously grow. I would also show you something that this report says. So according to this report, a certain amount of jobs will be created, while a certain amount of jobs will disappear. So we needed to see the HR analytics and financial analytics, career path. If you're going into them, do you stand a risk of having your job disappear within a couple of years? You no longer have a job as a HR analyst. At that point, you have to start looking for something else to learn. So I'll show you that report as well. Now, after we've been able to, take a look at the Future of Jobs report, we also needed to see, okay, for people in the UK, for people in the US, for people in Canada, how can they literally learn this HR analytics and financial analytics program, and how will it help them with immigration? Guess what we found? In UK, the HR analytics and financial analytics, paths are amongst the eligible occupations for the skilled worker visa. What this means is after you've learned the necessary skills, you are able to look for a company that has the license to sponsor. They give you a certificate of sponsorship. And because the HR analytics or the financial analytics, depending on anyone you choose, because these roles are amongst the eligible occupations for skilled worker visa, you can apply for your skilled worker visa after after the company has given you your COS. Okay, now in the US as well, we saw that the HR and financial analytics, they're amongst the job titles with highest H-1B acceptance rates. In Canada, they are also amongst the, provincial nominee program. So you can see that, it's a full package here at Analytics. The HR analytics, the financial analytics, the roles are in demand. If you're looking to get visa, through these roles, you can get your visa as well. Now, I just wanted to also include the 8 training programs that we have here at Analytics. I mentioned 8 of them at the start. So the first is the business analysis. We have the data analytics, data science, agile project management, data engineering, cybersecurity, HR analytics, as well as financial analytics. But our focus for today is HR analytics and financial analytics. So I mentioned I was going to literally show you the report, from the World Economic Forum. Now, here's what they have to say. Between now and 2030, a lot of jobs will be created, while a lot of jobs will fizzle out, right? So according to them, in the next 5 years, 170 million jobs will be created, while 92 million jobs will disappear. So let's see, HR analytics, financial analytics, are they amongst the roles that will disappear? Or then if you get into them, is there a possibility that these roles will continuously grow in demand and you can easily land a job? So let's see. Now, remember that, like I said earlier, the financial analyst is a data analyst that is focused on financial data. And then the HR analyst is a data analyst that is focused on HR-related data. So what this means is you are able to apply for data analyst roles. Okay, you are able to apply for data analyst roles because whilst you were learning your HR analytics and financial analytics with analytics, you also got the skills that a data analyst will get. So this means that you are able to apply for data analyst. So I thought to show you this. That is why I have this on my screen as well. Then we have the financial analyst. So you can see here on my screen that this is amongst the role that will continuously grow in demand. Now, I've left a link to this report here in the slide. So just ensure that you fill the attendance form so that you get a notification as soon as this is up and you can take your time to go through. All right, so I would also show you the HR analyst role. So we have the training and development specialist, which is a role under HR analytics, right? And this is something that will continuously grow in demand. Okay, so one mistake people make is if they're learning to become HR analyst or financial analyst, at the point of job application, they're just looking for jobs with the title HR analyst or financial analyst. But guess what? Because of the skills you've learned here at Analytics, your Excel, Power BI, SQL, financial modeling, valuation, and all of that, your HR metrics and dashboarding, reporting your case action and all of that, there are other roles that you can apply for because you have the skills, because you already learned the skills. Now, I'll just show you quickly. So if you're taking the financial analytics program or you are looking to transition into financial analytics, what are some other roles that you can apply for? If you see on my screen, you would see some roles in data analytics, absolutely, right? Then you have your financial analyst roles, investment analyst, commercial analyst, credit analyst, treasury analyst, financial planning and analysis analyst, pricing analyst, portfolio analyst, corporate financial analyst. These are some roles that you can apply for after taking the financial analytics program. Then we have the HR analyst. Absolutely, some roles in data analytics. You're also able to apply to HR analyst role, people analyst role, workforce planning analyst, talent analytics specialist, compensation analyst, benefits and reward analyst, talent analyst, HR operations analyst, diversity and inclusion analyst, and so much more. I don't know if you're as excited as I am, because imagine coming to learn a couple of skills and these are the career paths that are open to you. These are the roles that are open to you. I think it is really, really exciting. Okay, so now you've been able to learn, right? You've been able to learn, you decided to go for HR analytics, you decided to go for financial analytics. I've shown you some of the skills, that you'd need to learn. What some of us would do is just write down the skills and then you go on some other platform to learn. But you forget that you need to put in a strategy in place, especially for people that are complete beginners. Right? To get into tech, you need to be strategic. And here at Analytics, we have a working strategy. We already have a structure in place to help you achieve your goal of transitioning into tech and getting a job. So what is the strategy that works really? Right? The first is learn. That cannot be overemphasized. You absolutely need to learn. And today you're choosing either the financial analytics or the HR analytics. I've also shown you, the skills that you need to learn as well. Now, after you're focused on learning, after you've been able to get all the necessary skills, the next thing you need to do is focus on employability. If you go on LinkedIn and search for financial analysts, you see way too many people. If you go on LinkedIn and also search for HR analysts, you'll see way too many people. But guess what? A lot of them don't even have jobs, but they just have that, in their profile. So literally, you that is looking to get into financial analytics or HR analytics, how can you stand out? How can you position so that you get a job as soon as possible? Now to position, your CV has to go through a complete overhaul. And that is something that we do here at Analytics. Regardless of your background, whether you have a background in HR, whether you have a background in financial analytics or not, we do a overhaul of your CV. That is the first way to position after learning, because your CV speaks before you. Right? So that means that your CV has to be right on par. So after we've been able to do an overhaul, that is the first thing you need to put in place if you're looking to position. The second is LinkedIn optimization. Now, a lot of recruiters, if you're applying for a role now, and then say you're applying for an HR analyst role, and they go on your they go on your LinkedIn profile, and there's nothing to show for it. They can't really tell, if you're really who you say you are. So that is why in positioning, you also need to learn how you can optimize your LinkedIn profile. Then we also have portfolio. Guess you come to me, just imagine that I'm looking to fill up a HR analyst role, and you as a beginner, you literally just learned all the skills and you want to apply for a role in my company. How am I able to ascertain that you actually can provide value? You can do the job. The only way I can tell that you can do the job is if I go through the previous things that you have done. And that is what your portfolio is. It is just a snapshot of the project you've worked on. It showcases your skills and your experience, such that if a recruiter goes through, they can tell, oh, this person knows how to, analyze HR data. They know how to do compensation and benefit analysis, because from your portfolio, you've been able to show that you have these skills, right? Then we have mentorship. So you also need to get mentored by people that have walked the talk, people that have gone ahead of you and gotten a job. That is absolutely one way to position. We also have interview preparation. It is your first time getting into HR analytics or financial analytics, and you have to interview at some point, right? So how do you get prepped? They'll ask you to answer competency-based questions. They'll also ask you to introduce yourself. How do you get prepped? Literally, it is something you need to have figured out as well. You also have reference letter, right? Because at the point when you're done learning, you're looking for jobs, not internship. You're looking for jobs that will pay you well. That's the whole point of learning. But you're telling the recruiter that, oh, I'm an HR analyst. And then they want to see, have you ever, worked for any company before? Can they vouch for you? That is something you also need to figure out. Then you have on-the-job support, right? And that is something you also need to put in place, right? Then after you've been able to put all of this in place, you also need to start applying like a machine. Now, here at Analytics, these are the strategies that have worked. The first thing is to teach you, so that you learn. The second is to help you position. And the third is to teach you how to apply to jobs. Right? And here at Analytics, we believe that, every single job description has keywords that are peculiar to the job. And at the point when you're applying, your CV has to be tailored, to pick or capture the keyword in the job, right? So that your CV actually stands a chance and it doesn't get saved out by the applicant tracking system. Okay, so if you put all of this strategy in place, you learn, you position, and you apply. Absolutely. There's no doubt that you are definitely getting a job. And I can tell you this for a fact because, we've helped over 2,000 people, transition into tech and get a job. And these are the strategies that they put in place. So yours is absolutely, the same if you're looking to plug into the strategy that we have here at Analytics. So I thought to give you a bit more details about learning. Now, how you learn matters a whole lot, right? So a lot of people, that are looking to transition into tech, they just go on YouTube, they do the self-paced, right? Every day they try, oh, let me just go through this video, Alex, the analyst, and all of that. And then when they are stuck, you leave a comment on the YouTube page, and the person is too busy. They would not even see your comment, but you're stuck on writing a function. You're stuck on writing a formula, and you can't go past that. You don't have a live interaction with anybody, that will hold your hands and help you, transition seamlessly. So when you're transitioning into tech as a beginner, you don't want to do self-paced alone. It will take you the longest of times to transition into tech. So you want to combine self-paced, and then you also have access to an instructor. And this is what we bring you here at Analytics. You have your self-paced and you have your instructor-led live class. Right? So this is absolutely how you learn. And this is called the blended learning approach. Okay, so what is the duration of the training program here at Analytics? Right? So the training program is for 8 months, right? 8 months of learning, but then it is split into 6 months of learning and 2 months of internship. Now, in 6 months, you see the skills that I mentioned to you, you get equipped with the skills, right? And then after you learn, you also have your internship. Now, the juicy part is your 6 months will be done with Tenalytics, and your 2 months will be done with a sister company called Amdari. For those of us in Canada, Tenalytics is registered in Canada. So if you are at the point when you're applying for a job as a HR analyst or a financial analyst, and the recruiter wants you to have Canadian-based experience, on your CV, Tenalytics is going to be there. That is one strategy that we deploy. You have Tenalytics as your work experience. And we encourage our participants to have on their CV that they've worked for Tenalytics as consultants or contractors. Right? And that way, recruiters are able to see that you have the much needed experience. Now, a recruiter wants you to have Canadian-based experience, right? Tenalytics is a company registered in Canada. So by virtue of learning with Tenalytics, you have that on your CV. And then your internship will be done with a company that is registered in London. For those of us in London that were looking to have London-based experience or UK-based experience, you're literally doing your internship with a company that is registered in UK, and you have the opportunity to put them in your CV. Now, imagine that you're a beginner. You literally don't know anything about HR analytics or financial analytics. But after you've learned, after you've worked on projects, after you've been able to build a portfolio, you have 2 different companies on your CV as your work experience. So a HR analyst with Tenalytics, a HR analytics consultant with Amdari. Right? Tell me which recruiter would see that, and not literally give you the job. Remember that your portfolio has to be right on par. And that is something we also teach you, how to do here at Tenalytics. And then Tenalytics is also accredited by the American Council of Training and Development. So it's a total package for those of us looking to transition into HR analytics or financial analytics. So what is the learning timeline like? How do you literally, the learning schedule and all of that? So what we have here at Analytics is like I said, the blended learning approach. And with the blended learning approach, we have the live class and the self-paced. Now, out of 4 Saturdays in a month, our programs are very, very flexible. A lot of people coming into our training programs, they are busy professionals, right? People that have responsibilities, they have work, family, and the likes. And when they want to learn, right, you don't want to, just bombard them with, oh, you have to come to class from Monday to Sunday. So what we have, like I said, is the blended learning approach. And out of 4 Saturdays in a month, you get to be in a live class for 2 out of those 4 Saturdays, right? Now, the other Saturdays are for your drop-in sessions. Then with the self-paced, you learn at your convenience. So if you're in a live class for 2 out of 4 Saturdays, you have your self-paced from Sunday through to Friday. You choose the time. Oh, I learn better at 9, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. You access your project, your resources that are very beginner friendly, and you learn. And then all these projects you worked on, you are able to have them on your portfolio. Now, we have the morning and the evening class. The morning class is for people in Europe, UK, Africa, because it's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. West African time, right? And then we have the evening class. The evening class is for people in Canada, North America, basically. Now, with the evening class, you get to learn between 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. West African time, and that's around 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. MSC. So you just choose the one that is okay for you, morning or evening, and you learn at your convenience. Then we also have our mentorship sessions and interview preparation, which is tailored to suit people in Europe, UK, Africa, and people in Canada. Right now, remember that we fully understand that the people coming to take our tech training programs are busy. So we've ensured that all sessions, all the live classes are recorded and you have a lifetime access. It doesn't matter, when you learned with Analytics. If you learn in 2025 and you need access to your project in 2030, you have a lifetime access to all the resources and all the projects. Now, let's briefly take a look at positioning. How do you position? The first thing you want to do, remember, is to have your portfolio handy. Because as a beginner, to stand a chance, you need something to show recruiters that I have the skills. I've really worked as an HR analyst or a financial analyst, so I can do it for you. I can deliver value. I can deliver on the job. So your portfolio shows the recruiter that you're capable of delivering on the job. And here on this slide, I've left links to a couple of portfolios, that you can go through at your convenience. So you see what a portfolio looks like. I would have shown you one, but for want of time, I've left the link here. So as soon as you get the slide, just look through it and you'll be able to see what a portfolio looks like. Then we have the CV review and revamp. After you're done having your portfolio needs to be linked to your CV. Okay, so with the CV review and revamp, what we've been able to do, like I said, is to do a total overhaul of your CV. And the way we go about this is, first of all, to provide you with a standard HR analyst or financial analyst CV format, right? And then you structure your CV according to this format. After structuring, you submit it back to us, and our employability professionals are able to take a look at the CV you submitted, and they will provide you with individualized feedback, personalized feedback. Right. So for somebody like Atinuke, if she submitted a CV, right, and then the employability professional notices that, oh, your works, your professional experience, you need to word it better, or your educational experience, this is how it should be. They give you that feedback and you are able to implement. Remember, I said that on your CV, we encourage our participants to have Analytics as their work experience. What we're able to do is all the projects you're working on, at the point when we're doing CV review and revamp, we provide you with a job description that summarizes all the projects you'll be working on here at Analytics, right? So you can have that on your CV, and a recruiter is able to see that, yes, you have the, experience. You link to your portfolio is also right there on your CV. Okay, then we have LinkedIn optimization. A lot of our participants have been able to get jobs on LinkedIn. And that is because their LinkedIn contains the necessary keywords that a HR analyst LinkedIn profile should contain. Same as a financial analyst. So that a recruiter, when we're looking to fill up roles here at Analytics, sometimes we just go right there on LinkedIn and search for data analyst, financial analyst, in a certain location. And then we take a look at the names that pop up, and then the person is, getting interviewed. So what does this tell you? As a professional, as a beginner looking to get into tech, your LinkedIn profile has to be keyword optimized. You also need to have a link to your portfolio, and you also need to have Analytics as your work experience right there on LinkedIn. And this is something we teach you. Then you have navigating the job market. So what we're able to do is to teach you, so where are these jobs? While people will be complaining there are no jobs, the tech space is saturated and all of that, what we've been able to do is basically, subscribe to premium job boards. Right? The reason why we've done this is just so that you have an advantage. So apart from the premium job boards you have access to, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and the likes, you also have access to paid roles that you can apply for, and you don't have to pay for them because we are already paying for them. All you need to do is on a weekly basis, just access the platform, that contains these jobs and apply. That is all you need to do. And then we have the interview preparation session. So like I said, right, with the interview preparation session, you are a beginner. At the point of interviewing, they'll ask you to introduce yourself. They'll also ask you to answer competency-based questions, right? Now, in your interview preparation, as long as you have an interview coming up, all you need to do is just book for a session with Analytics, and we're able to, walk you through. We're able to instill the confidence, preempt the questions you are likely to get so that you ace the interview. Then we're able to provide you with job reference letters. We're able to also provide you with on-the-job support, weekly mentorship sessions, as well as Upwork optimization session. Right. So after you've been able to get all the employability skills in place, you have access to mentorship and the likes, it is time to apply. And you definitely need to apply like a machine. Now, one standard rule we have here at Analytics is never reuse a CV when applying to jobs. And that is why we go ahead to teach you how you can tailor your CV to suit every single role that you want to apply for. So you need to tailor your application, every single application you need to make. And guess what? You need to make over 10 quality applications per day. You don't need to get tired. Remember, you also have Analytics for mentorship. Okay, then you also need to tap into the paid and hidden job markets. Right? So this is absolutely how you apply. And I was also going to show you, success stories of people that are putting these strategies in place and they've been able to get a job. We have somebody like Chika right here on my screen. So he landed a role after taking the financial analytics program as a financial analyst in the UK. I've left a link to his testimonial here, right? So that you hear his experience with Analytics. Solomon as well, if you take a look at my screen, you'd see Solomon. For those of us that think, oh, I need to actually have a background in finance or HR analytics before I can successfully transition into these roles, Solomon is your example. Solomon had an engineering background, right? And he was able to transition into being a financial analyst, right? Then we have Akintayo here as well. Right, Akintayo was able to get into our financial analytics program, right? And he was able to get a job as a CFO, a chief financial officer. Okay, so all of these people have been able to put these strategies in place, and those are financial analytics professionals. We have people in HR analytics as well, right? So right here is a screenshot of somebody's, process, their success story. Right? Remember I told you that we provide reference letter. If you take a look at the first screenshot, this is from a participant that took our HR analytics program in Canada. You'd see, good morning, Adeza. I bring good news. I've been given a position as a HR analyst with the region of Peel here in Ontario, Canada. At this point, she was requesting for reference, right? Details of referees and all of that, right? And in the second screenshot, you'd see her saying, you'd see Adeza basically responding because she has said that, thank you so much. I received my offer this afternoon. This is somebody in Canada. Right? So this is the strategy that a lot of these people have been able to put in place. We have Amaka here, came into our HR analytics program. She tapped into the premium job boards. She was able to apply for one of them and she got a job, after taking the HR program, and guess the job title, HR data analyst. Right? So these are the strategies that we've been able to put in place to help these people and a lot more transition into tech. We have Sonia as well. We have Ikmat here on my slide. We have Pavel and the likes. Right? So just to get, a feel of the people in the house, if you've, been following me thus far, right? If you've heard every single thing I've said, please leave a yes in the chat. I need to know that everybody is still right here. If you're following me, if you're getting every single thing I've been saying, all right, I can see Francesca, absolutely, Atinuke, absolutely, Dawn as well. All right, so we'll go ahead to basically tell you how you can get started today. You've seen the skills you need to learn. You've seen that the role you're about choosing, HR analytics or financial analytics, it is one in demand. It won't fizzle out in the next coming years. You can easily get a job. If you're looking for visa sponsorship, you can also, get that, with these career paths. So how can you get started today? As somebody with interest in HR analytics or financial analytics, how can you get started today? Right? We are a tech training program. And of course, we have a cohort that begins on the 9th of August. So what this means is you can begin your journey as a HR analyst or a financial analyst on the 9th of August, which is next week, Saturday. So you start, and by January of next year, you have all the skills that you need. Okay, so we have a next cohort starting on the 9th of August, and then we have a discount ongoing for our August cohort and our September cohort, right? So we open this discount to only 20%, and then I'll talk you through the discount, right? Now, the cost of the training program here at Analytics, every single thing, the technical skills, the employability, everything is worth $900. But we have a discount ongoing, like I said. So with a discount, instead of you to pay $900, you get to pay $750. That's about 20% off, and that's really exciting. $150 off. But here's the juicy part. Now, you don't have to pay the entire $750 to get started. So you're looking to start on the 9th of August or even September. You want to take advantage of this discount. You don't need to break the bank, to immediately, cough out $750. And this is because we have monthly payment plans. So my colleague will basically share the link to the payments platform, and I would walk you through, how you can set the monthly payment plan and how you can also secure a discounted slot for the 9th of August. All right, so you get the link right about now in the chat, right? And then I would walk you through how you can go about making payment. Now, as soon as you click on that link, right, the one that my colleague has just shared, the main stack link, as soon as you click on that, let me just quickly do that so we see. As soon as you click on the main stack link, you get access to this, right? You would see a platform basically saying Tenalytics Enrollment Center. I'm just going to wait for this to load up, right? But then you're going to see Tenalytics Enrollment Center, and this is the registration platform. This is where you get to register for the HR Analytics or the Financial Analytics program. So you'd see Tenalytics Enrollment Center, and what you want to do is just scroll down and look for Financial Analytics or HR Analytics. So Financial Analytics is FA. HR Analytics, is HR. So if you want to go for financial analytics, just click on register for FA. Just to confirm, can everybody still see my screen here in the chat? Please, if you can see my screen, kindly let me know that you can see my screen. I just need to be sure that every single person can still see my screen while I walk you through the payment. All right, thank you so much, Dawn. Right, so like I said, all you need to do is just look for register for FA or register for HR. And it doesn't matter your location, you would pay in your local currency. Now, I know that I mentioned the price in dollars, right? But the platform, the payment platform has your local currency, enabled. And all you need to do is just select your local currency and you can pay in your local currency. Okay, so if you're in the UK, all you need to do is just come here and search for GBP, Great Britain pounds. So you see the equivalent of that in pounds. But I'm going to use the US dollars, for this example, right? So like I said, the discount is only open to 20%. And for the financial analytics, we only have 10 seats available down to the payments plan. So like I said, we have payment plans ranging from 1 to 5. So if you want to get started with the 9th of August or the September cohort and you want to take advantage of the discount, all you need is with the 5 monthly payment, all you need is $150 US. That is all you need to lock in a spot and get started for August. Right? If you're looking to go for the 4 monthly payment, you would need $187.50. Right? If you're looking to go for the 3 monthly payment, you just need to pay $250 every month. And by the 3rd month, you are good to go. Then we have the 2 monthly payment and the one-time payment. With the 2 monthly payment and one-time payment, you have a further discount. Instead of $750 US, you get to pay $700 US. All right, so this is the payment plan, and I hope it absolutely makes sense to you. Okay, so try to secure a discounted slot for either the August or September class. And if you're still confused on whether you should go for financial analytics or HR analytics, you can secure a discounted slot, and then you'd get a form to fill. While you're filling the form, you can speak to a professional so that they help to take a look at your, experience, your work experience, to figure out the career path that suits you. Okay, so what you want to do is secure a discounted slot, and in the process of filling your form, you impute that you need to speak to a professional because you're not yet decided on whether you should go for the financial analytics or the HR analytics. So this is easy peasy, as simple as it sounds, right? So I'll take questions at this point. Okay, so if you have any question, please go ahead to ask your question so that we can close the session, because I appreciate you listening. You've been here for quite a while. So if you have any question at this point, please go ahead to either leave your question in the chat, or you can signify that you need to get unmuted so you speak and I take your questions. Okay, so who has a question? Let me just take a look at the people we have on the call. So I have Dawn, I have Francisca, I have Josephine, I have Violet, Claire, Chiamaka, Atinuke, and a whole lot of other people. So if you have a question, please leave your question in the chat so that I can take your question, or signify that you need to get unmuted so that I can also answer. Okay, when can I get someone to speak with? Tomorrow, right? So my colleague is also going to share the link for you to book a clarity session. So it's called a clarity session, so that you're able to come speak, and then they'll tailor your experience, right? So my colleague, Oluwafumike, will share the link on the chat, so that you book a session and you come on board. We have a conversation with you, decide on which program to go for as well. All right, so all right, so my colleague is going to share that, like I said. Do we have any more questions before we wrap up this session? Does anybody else have a question? Okay. So Oluwafumike, please share the link to the clarity session, so that we're able to book for a clarity session, okay? So if there are no more questions at this point, I guess we've come to the close of today's session. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and then for listening to us, over 2 hours. All right, so if there are no more questions, we're just going to call it a close. I hope to see you come September or August. No, Francisca is asking, do I have to pay before I access the clarity session? Absolutely not. So you don't have to pay. It's just a very free session. We take a look at your background, your work experience, and we decide, which program would be the right fit for you, so you can register for the program. All right, so you absolutely do not have to pay for that. Okay, so I guess we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with me, right? We'll call it a close now. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, and bye for now. Thank you, Violet. Thank you.